everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Remind everybody, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's PayPal link down in the details section for anybody that wants to share some love. And the StreamYard is there for anybody that wants to join the panel. We're talking tonight about the vehicle assignment. Everyone wants to talk about driving and traveling and this and that, when it actually comes down to the paperwork that we're putting in ourselves. And what happens is that we end up filling out official documentation and don't qualify the signature properly because nobody's taught us. So it enters in the system as if though we're one of those trustees. Before we get into the actual codes, I'm going to read through 1 Corinthians 12 as it relates to the similar performance that we do in our daily lives on opposite sides of the counters in these commercial transactions that by presumption say that we're operating or performing in the function of a public office. And that's because we use that ID and everything. So let's take a look at it. The similar functions, and I suggest everybody read Corinthians in the King James Version of the Bible as it relates to your psychology and how you should develop your thought processes. And it says, "Now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you ignorant." In other words, he gives you, you automatically have some kind of spiritual gifts, each and every one of us. Now, we all have different gifts. Some have more than one, some have several. And this is that in relations to the parable of the talents, where we're supposed to go forth and share those talents. "Ye know that ye were Gentiles, carried away unto these dumb idols, even as ye were led. Wherefore I give you to understand that no man speaking by the Spirit of God calleth Jesus accursed, and that no man can say that Jesus is the Lord, but by the Holy Ghost. Now these are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are differences of administrations, but the same Lord. There is no power but that which is ordained by God," Romans 1:13. "And there are diversities of operations, but it is the same God which worketh in all." And before we go any further, I want to pull something else up real quick and prepare it, because this is the first thing I want to mention before we go on. Remember, verses 5 and 6 as it goes to the administration and the operations. Administrations and operations. "But the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man to profit withal." Again, a reference to the parable of the talents, where we're supposed to go forth and share our talents. We go forth with 3 and come back with 6. Go forth with 5 and come back with 10. But if we have one and we bury it and try to save it, it profits nothing. It's a waste of the spiritual gift to manifest. "For to one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge by the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healing by the same Spirit, to another working of miracles, to another a prophecy, to another discerning of spirits, to another divers kinds of tongues, to another the interpretation of tongues. But all these worketh that one and self-same Spirit." This is the oneness, folks. The Spirit is the one. Each and every one of us is an image and likeness independently as single living souls, dividing to every man severally as he will. Every man severally as he wills. So again, parable of the talents, where you go forth and it's your will whether you share those talents or you bury them to keep them safe. For as the body is one and hath many members, and all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Christ. For by one Spirit we are all baptized into one body, whether we be Jews or Gentiles, whether we be bond or free, and have been all made to drink into one Spirit. For the body is not one member, but many. If the foot shall say, because I am not the hand, I am not of the body. Oops. Don't know how that happened. If the foot shall say, because I am not the hand, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? And if the ear shall say, because I am not the eye, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? If the whole body were an eye, where were the hearing? If the whole were hearing, where were the smelling? But now hath God set the members, every one of them, in the body, as it hath pleased him. And if they were all one member, where were the body? But now are the many members, yet but one body. This is the problem we're having today, is recognizing we're all one body, and we keep coming up on these panels and wanting to argue with each other in these drama venues. It's sad. And they cannot say unto the hand, I have no need of thee, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. Nay, more of those members of the body which seem to be more feeble are necessary. And those members of the body which we think to be less honorable, upon these we bestow more abundant honor, and our uncomely parts have more abundant comeliness. For our comely parts have no need, but God hath tempered the body together, having given more abundant honor to that part which lacked. This is where we see a common layman generally stands in more honor than these public servants. Yet they bow down to him. That's the cuckoldry that's so confusing. That there should be no schism in the body, but the members should have the same care one for another. And whether one member suffer, all members suffer with it, or one member be honored, all members rejoice in it. Now ye are the body of Christ, and members in particular. And God hath set some in the church, first apostles, secondarily prophets, thirdly teachers, after that miracles, then gifts of healing, helps. This would be like individual associates, people that you enjoy your life with, relationships, governments, diversities of tongues. Are all apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Are all workers of miracles? Have all the gifts of healing? Do all speak with tongues? Do all interpret? But covet earnestly the best gifts, and yet shew I unto you a more excellent way. Referencing, ye shall do greater things than I. So what we're looking at is the fact that it doesn't matter what your research is, what your knowledge is, what your background is, what your experiences are. It's time to recognize it's the abundance of those very diversities that we're able to observe and cohabitate with that allow us our own talents to expand. And again, reference to the feed a man for a day if you give him a fish, but you feed him for a lifetime if you teach him to fish. And the more inherent, prosperous, abundant benefit in that concept is that you keep teaching others. That's the true benefit, is the knowledge. So let's take a look at the next one. And this is the tab that I had to stop and take a break to open up. 32 CFR 1602.4 Area Office. National Defense as it relates to the Selective Service System definitions. So the definition of area office, as we remember verses 5 and 6, administration and operation. The Selective Service Office, which is responsible for all administrative and operational support for the one or more local boards within its jurisdiction. So your national defense is a thing about bringing talents together to protect people under that Romans 13:1, to enforce the power of God as administrators and operators under his kingdom, to protect his children, Gentile or Jew, bond or not. So let's take a look at the vehicle part. Vehicle assignment guidelines on state business, owner withdrawal from the program. Title V, General Services, State Driver Guidelines for State Vehicle Use and Fueling. Vehicle Assignment Guidelines, and this is the Iowa Administrative Code. Selective Service. These vehicles are known as fleet vehicles. We're talking about Admiralty Maritime Law on the military side. Iowa Administrative Code R 11-103.4 Vehicle Assignment Guidelines. In order to maximize the average passenger miles per gallon of motor vehicle fuel consumed, vehicles shall be assigned on the following basis. EPA-rated compact sedans may carry 1 or 2 passengers and their personal effects. So there's taking a compact sedan, which is an automobile, and classifying it as a motor vehicle, which may carry 1 or 2 passengers and their personal effects. EPA-rated mid-size sedans or small sport utility vehicles shall carry 3 or more passengers and their personal effects. EPA-rated full-size sedans or mid-size support utility vehicles shall carry 4 or more passengers and their personal effects. Cargo vans shall be appropriate in size and government weight for their primary use with regard to payload and cargo volume. Mini passenger vans shall carry 3 or more passengers, their personal effects, and cargo that does not conform to the use of a full-size sedan. 8-passenger vans shall carry 5 or more passengers and their personal effects. 12-passenger vans shall carry 7 or more passengers and their personal effects. 15-passenger vans shall carry 9 or more passengers and their personal effects. Pickups and sport utility vehicles shall be appropriate in size, government weight, and drivetrain, 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive, for their primary use with regard to trailering, payload, cargo, volume, and on-off-road requirements. Payload and cargo. Vehicles that are made available for temporary assignments, such as departmental pool vehicles, shall be assigned in accordance with this rule. Again, it's a rule. It's an administrative rule. If an If an appropriately classified vehicle is unavailable, a larger available classification may be substituted. Oops. I don't know why I'm not sharing this. My apologies, folks. Other substitutions may be authorized in consideration of passenger, physical characteristics, or disabilities, or any other distinguishing circumstances and conditions as determined by the Fleet Services Manager. Like I said, it's for fleet vehicles. The Director of the Department of Transportation for Transportation, Commerce, Transportation, Traffic, or Trade. Or the Executive Director of the Board of Regents for the vehicles under their respective authorities. So when you get a motor vehicle title, certificate of title, the respective authority is from the State Department of Motor Vehicles or Department of Transportation. It's an administrative branch, and you just pledged your automobile as a motor vehicle because they said you had to. Well, there are certain distinctions that clarify differences. We're going to read some more, and we're going to find out what that difference is. The vehicles permanently issued to agencies or drivers shall be assigned in accordance with this rule based on the primary use of the vehicle. Primary use of the vehicle. What is a primary? That sounds like a democracy, right? At least 50% of its use. Remember that in the motor vehicle operator's lease? They changed it from lease to agreement now. The director may delegate authority to officials of the state and agency heads for the use of private vehicles on state business. Use of private vehicles on state business. Does that sound like the performance of the functions of public office? Remember, I did several videos on the certification is false, where we went over the motor vehicle operator's lease under 26 U.S.C. 7701, subsection H. We're going to take a look at that again today, but that's what this is talking about here, pursuant to the Iowa Administrative Code. Use of private vehicles on state business would be for the performance of functions of public office, would it not? If a state vehicle has been assigned to a state officer or employee, the officer or employee shall not collect mileage for the use of a privately owned motor vehicle unless the state motor vehicle assigned is not usable. So, see, they're supposed to provide state motor vehicles. For the use of a privately owned motor vehicle unless the state motor vehicle assigned is not usable. So they're supposed to have assigned state motor vehicles. Real nice and short. The next one we're going to take a look at is 28, Judicial Administration. So there's the administrative branch there, Department of Justice. Motor Vehicle Theft Prevention Act regulations. See, this is why they say you're required to register your motor vehicle. Or your automobile, excuse me. But they don't make that distinction. They say you're required to register that motor vehicle because they classify it as a motor vehicle automatically through U.S. imports as a fleet vehicle. And that title goes to the state. You didn't buy that car for the state, did you? Are you providing an automobile, a private automobile, to use on state business? Oops, didn't mean that. The director may delegate authority to officials of the state and agency heads for the use of private vehicles on state business. What other use is there of a private vehicle? See, it's got to be for its intended use on state business. Primary use of the vehicle on state business. So let's share this one instead. Back to the owner withdrawal from the program. Owner withdrawal from the program. An owner may withdraw, this was just 2 sentences. An owner may withdraw from the program at any time by completely removing the program decal and changing the license plate if necessary. Now, what other plate is available other than a private placard distinguishing the same? Withdrawn from program. The owner is also encouraged to notify the participating agency in writing of such withdrawal. So remember my videos on certification is false, and that all you got to do is give those people notice that that certification is false. And why do you give them notice that the certification is false? You give them notice that the certification is false for a couple reasons. That you never gave a certifying statement of your intent to use that motor vehicle for your trade or business, at least 50% of its use. And knowing that the term trade or business means the performance of the functions of public office, you don't have a public office. You don't have an oath of office. Therefore, it creates an impossibility for you to make a certifying statement to that until and unless you are in a public office with a valid oath. So let's go back to 26 U.S. Code 7701. Subsection H, motor vehicle operating leases. For purposes of this title, in the case of a qualified motor vehicle operating agreement on state business, which contains a terminal rental adjustment clause. Do you have a terminal rental adjustment clause? Saying that you're renting the car provided by the state to use it on state business? Such agreement shall be treated as a lease if, but for such terminal rental adjustment clause, such agreement would be treated as a lease under this title. So they're saying without that, it can still be treated as such a lease. The lessee shall not be treated as the owner of the property subject to an agreement during any period such agreement is in effect. Now, if that agreement is voidable and there is no record whatsoever of either having an oath of office or showing the 50% use of that automobile as a motor vehicle, which means the mileage record, time logs, passenger, cargoes, points of origin and final destinations for delivery and receivership, things of that such, then again, it's impossible. So let's continue on. Qualified motor vehicle operating agreement defined for purposes of this subsection. The term qualified motor vehicle operating agreement under administration, judicial administration. Okay, so the judiciary is deemed to be the principal, and you are deemed to be the surety operating. Means any agreement with respect to a motor vehicle, including a trailer, which meets the requirements of subparagraphs B, C, and D of this paragraph. So B is the minimum liability of lessor, which is the state, claiming they are leasing that automobile to you. An agreement meets the requirements of this subparagraph if under such agreement the sum of the amount the lessor is personally liable to repay. Folks, did you keep records of all your mileage? Did you keep records of all the time that you spent on the clock driving from point A to point B, as they would like the record to reflect? Because if you did, you could submit that record for payment, or the liable party to repay. And the net fair market value of the lessor's interest in any property pledged as security for property subject to the agreement. So you pledged the automobile, as it says up here, property subject. You will not be treated as owner of the property subject because you pledged it to the state. Pledged as security. So if you pledged the automobile as security, why are they asking you to get further security, such as insurance? Equals or exceeds all amounts borrowed to finance the acquisition of property subject to the agreement. What does the lessor's interest in that have? See, when you pledged that automobile to the state, you pledged rights, titles, and interest to it. But it's not valid on its face, because again, it has to be for primary use, at least 50% of its use for trade or business, which is the performance of the functions of public office on state business. There shall not be taken into account under Clause 2 any property pledged, which is property subject to the agreement, or property directly or indirectly financed by indebtedness secured by property subject to the agreement. So what it's saying is, if you have a car and you're still making the payments, you actually can't hand the interest over to the state as a lessor. You cannot pledge that property for security if you haven't secured it through proper payments by paying it off yet. One reason to dismiss it. C, certification by lessee. Notice of tax ownership. This is where you have to make that handwritten statement. An agreement meets the requirements of this subparagraph if such agreement contains a separate written statement separately signed by the lessee, under which the lessee certifies under penalty of perjury that it intends that more than 50% of the use of the property subject to such agreement is to be in a trade or business of the lessee. Now, you're a lessee, and it's the trade or business of you that you are in. And that definition right there, see how it's blue line highlighted? It's going to take us up this page. This definition is on this exact same page under number 26. Trade or business. 26 U.S. Code 7701. Where this is A26, we're at subsection H. H2C. And it refers us right back to the same code up the ladder. 26. A26 says trade or business. The term trade or business includes the performance of the functions of public office. As justum generis, they say nothing else, so there is nothing else that could be considered as a class of the same. Trade or business includes the performance of the functions of a public office. On state business, the functions of a public office. Trade or business of the lessee. If you don't have a public office, you cannot make this statement. 2, which clearly and legibly states that the lessee has been advised that it will not be treated as the owner of the property subject to the agreement for federal income tax purposes. So, on state business for federal income tax purposes. The primary use is legal time on state business for federal income tax purposes. The funny thing about it, when we talk about the owner withdrawal from the program, owner may withdraw from the program at any time by completely removing the program decal and changing the license plate if necessary. The owner is also encouraged to notify the participating agency in writing of such withdrawal. So we go back to 26 U.S.C. 7701D. Lessor must have no knowledge that certification is false. So if they don't have notice that the certification is false, they don't have knowledge that the certification is false, because there is a presumption that, first of all, that there is a handwritten statement of your intent when there isn't, and second, you have to give them notice that it's impossible because you don't have a public office according to the lease agreement. An agreement meets the requirements of this subparagraph if the lessor does not know that the certification described in subparagraph CI is false. That doesn't say the lessee, that says the lessor. So you as a lessee now that you know, you have a responsibility, people, to let them know the certification is false and you are withdrawing from their program. And you will place private property placards on your automobile. And if they have any questions through their goons, they need to educate their goons. I am educating them. I am educating you. I am educating everybody. This is plain writing, plain language. You now have been given notice. I don't want to hear any more excuses. I don't want to hear you coming to me with these traffic citations saying, how do I get rid of it? You don't. You suck it up until you learn how to get rid of the ID and the license for what it is and create your own private credentials through a private association. First Amendment. They can't deny that. My private association is with my Father which art in heaven, wherein I pray in private, in my closet, when I seek counsel with him. I don't need anybody else's advice. I'm studying to shew myself worthy and approved. You need to do the same. Understand that license and the ID is implicating that you are on state business. It's got the state's name at the top and then your name. And in some states like Iowa, they put the last name first. Selective Service is responsible for all administration and operation of the one or more local boards within its jurisdiction. It's a military jurisdiction. It's a soft martial law. Martial law chiefly affects the police and the collection of public revenue and taxes. Stop pretending you have a public office and you're on state business for federal income tax purposes. You don't even qualify. Yeah, here you are, state IDs, state driver's licenses, filing tax forms. Sickening. Anyway, we didn't have anybody wanting to come up on panel tonight, so we are at the end of the stream. Like I said, take heed. 32 CFR 1602.4, Area Office. Iowa Administrative Code 11-103.4, Vehicle Assignment Guidelines. 28 CFR 29.10, Owner Withdrawal from the Program. Title 28 being Judicial Administration. Title 26 U.S. Code 7701, A26, Definition of Trade or Business, means the performance of the functions of public office. Any licensure when they require you to have that ID so you can get a license or open a bank account, that ID is stating that you're on state business. You better understand this stuff, folks. That's the presumption laid on the record. You have a way to rebut it. Please do so. It's a matter of correcting the records. Sorry, it says here that the program succinctly mentions this, this, and this, and nowhere does it mention anything about me or anybody else unless we're on state business for federal income tax purposes in the performance of the functions of public office. It's that simple. So with that, remember, 1 Corinthians 12 tells you about your talents and how we're supposed to come together with our talents so we can bring all this information together and shut this bullshit, insane asylum down for what it is. Quit misidentifying yourself and understand who you truly are, what you're truly capable of, simply by studying to show yourself worthy and approved. Come out of the fear and learn the simple language. And if anybody has a problem with the way I explained it tonight, please help me out. If I'm the delusional one, please help me out. If I'm the one that needs to be locked up, please lock me up. They ain't done so yet. In the meantime, you guys know me. I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. And you know that's to say I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you don't like me. That's on you. So may God bless you and have a good night. Bye now.